Hey guys, wanted to do a quick video to share a paddle technology scoop that I think is pretty interesting and could actually be a game changer. Wasn't sure if it's just speculation or a wouldn't it be kind of cool hypothetical, so I was just sitting on it until I saw some sort of confirmation. Well, now I think we have that confirmation. I'll preface this by saying that nothing is official and even my source is not entirely sure about details or timing, but the rumor has now been essentially confirmed by none other than Ben Johns. So those of you that have come to pickleball from table tennis know that it is fairly standard for table tennis paddles to have two sides, one usually red and the other usually black, with each side having different rubbers and materials for different purposes. For instance, one side typically has a more spin-oriented softer rubber for spin control and defense, and the other side is usually firmer and firmer rubbers for speed and power. Uh, Indeed, the ITTF, which is the International Table Tennis Federation, rules specifically contemplate that tournament players will set their paddles up this way, with each side having different characteristics. And because of that, they require table tennis paddles to have one side black and the other side a different color to differentiate the two sides, so the opponent can differentiate the two sides. The rules actually even allow opponents to examine the sides of the opponent's paddle before the match so they'll know which side is which when they play that person. So, Joola, taking that experience and knowledge of making two-sided paddles in table tennis, appears to be in the works of making a two-sided pickleball paddle as well, with each side to have different characteristics so that players can spin the paddle in the middle of a match or in the middle of a point, to use one side of the paddle for one type of shot and the other side of the paddle for a different type of shot. An interesting dynamic here is that the USAPA rules on paddle specs are completely silent on this issue of whether paddle manufacturers can do this. That is, there's no rule requiring a paddle to have similar qualities, materials, etc. on either side. On the other hand, there are also no rules at all governing how to distinguish one side from the other, like in table tennis. So this may introduce a little bit of deception by players who would use such a paddle if the paddle were to, if and when this paddle is made and approved. Notably, the table tennis rules require the two different distinct colors to prevent players from using deception as opposed to skill with using that kind of a paddle, because back in the 70s, I guess, before the rules required different colored sides, less skilled players were beating better players by fooling them with surprise spins and shots that came off the paddle in ways that were surprising to their opponents, because they didn't know which side was which and they couldn't tell. Both sides were more black. So if this happens and Joola does make this paddle, it will be really interesting to see if USAPA adopts the same sort of ITTF rules regarding two-sided paddles and the colors to distinguish the sides. But that's for a future consideration or maybe a future video. So now, although this is not officially confirmed yet, Ben Johns did clearly indicate in a recent interview that he expects that we're going to see this two-sided paddle from Joola within the next 6 months or so. So it's April now, or I'm sorry, it's May now. So by November 2022. I put a link in the description to this interview that Ben Johns did with the Pickleball Clinic. It's a good interview, so it's worth checking out, even aside from confirming the scoop. And on a related note here, as I was sitting down to record this, I noticed that Joola just sort of quietly dropped a new paddle, and it's the Radius CGS 16mm. And this one looks like another paddle that's aimed at converting table tennis players with its shorter, wider shape, similar to the Prince Spectrum and Response Pros. Also, it looks like it's going to be a great control defensive paddle. It's 16mm thick, and if you note in Joola's own paddle ratings, they give the Radius a 95 for control, which I believe is the highest control score that they give any of their paddles. So they're telling you, hey, this is the paddle you want if you want control. So let me know what you guys think. I, for one, think this is a great idea and another way pickleball can adapt to be an even more fun sport for all newcomers coming from other sports like table tennis in this particular instance. Who knows whether Joola has already decided anything formally, but if people want to share their thoughts and put in the comments what they would like to see if this paddle ends up happening, maybe Joola will see it and will consider it. For instance, if they do choose to do contrasting colors, what colors would you guys want to see? In table tennis, black and red are pretty standard, but maybe that's boring. Maybe you want to see something else. And what features would you want to see on each side? After Paddlegate 2022 at the US Open this year, I suspect Joola doesn't want to push the envelope too far in terms of surface texture for spin purposes. So I would predict that they would set up one side fairly soft for touch shots and defense, with the other side having a firmer material for power and speed qualities. Also, if the pickleball rules don't require Joola to differentiate the two different performing sides of the paddle with different colors, um, would that be fair if Joola kept them both the same color? Um, and that way, the opposing team wouldn't know which side was which, and wouldn't be able to tell what kind of shots would be coming at them with the characteristics on each side. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and we'll see what happens, and maybe look back on this and possibly say we predicted it. Until then, any likes and follows I appreciate, and see you in the next video. Have fun out there pickleballing.